I don't really care if you like them or not.
Say
You
bad
don't have to
things
sleep with them.
about
You don't
Brooks.
have to vacation with them. How do you know what's good for me?
That's my opinion! Don't you get it? Why can't anybody have an opinion but you?
Hi guys, welcome to my channel. So from the title of this video, you can probably tell that today we are going to be criticizing each and every rom-com that exists. Because there's a lot to talk about because they're not as beautiful as they seem. They're quite toxic in my opinion, but this is my humble opinion. Has anyone asked for it? No. Am I still filming this video? Absolutely yes. So, just to make this video a little bit more exciting, I thought that I would do my makeup while I'm at it and talk about everything that is wrong with basically each and every romantic comedy that exists. And I am mainly talking about white girl, white boy falling in love out of the sudden. There's a lot to unpack here, and of course there are counter examples that can prove all of that I'm saying wrong. However, I do have many examples that state that this is true. That what I'm saying isn't just bullshit, and I'm not just dashing on these comedy movies because my heart's been broken by a guy who is basically just a crush that I have, but I still feel like I love him. No, of course not. I'm just in a good mood and I want to talk shit about something. Yes, I don't know if anyone's gonna watch this, but I found it very exciting to talk about this, especially because I used to love romantic comedies. And don't get me wrong, I still watch them to this day. And I sometimes rewatch some masterpieces because there's actually something good about them that we are going to talk about at the end of the video. I just want to talk negatively about something. And I found this topic very interesting to just dish. That's all. So, with that said, I'm gonna start doing my makeup and I'm gonna get into the points why I think that romantic comedies are toxic. But before we get into this, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content like this, where I basically talk about anything that I want, but still I do some other things like doing my makeup. Maybe next time I'll do my hair. I don't know. If you want more content like this from me, then tell me, because a lot of my videos are about lifestyle and fashion, but I do think that I want to do something more, and I just really need your feedback on this. So if you agree that I should do more videos like this, then like this video so I'll be able to know that you want something like this for me. Let's just get into the video. Okay. First things first, I'm gonna be looking that way because there is my mirror where I can see my face. I'm gonna tie my hair up in with this cute little hair dye. It's so adorable, it matches everything. So I have my notes here. I'm gonna be reading them off and then talking about them. So first we're going to talk about the romantic comedy itself. So what is a romantic comedy? It's a well thought out fantasy that has the purpose to lure in watchers and gives them a perfect romance story. Basically gives them the chance to see what they want to see. So what does this mean, in my opinion? A lot of times these fantasy grabs a potential idea and turns it into something romantic. This can be seen with a lot of Hallmark movies, but not just Hallmark movies. It's basically just an idea, but they turn it into this romantical meeting between two people who must fall in love, and the producers are smart. They actually, I think that they're trying to use the logic of mostly women, because they mostly target women, single women. If there's a guy who likes romantic comedies, you do you, boo. They are basically using plot devices and humor. So they fabricate a plot that is so perfect and just so glamorous that it doesn't even seem like it's true. Because if you think about, a lot of times the plot sometimes doesn't even make sense. I'm gonna get into this a little bit later. But I do really think that they're actually trying to make the movie so that it pleases us, the audience, and it's not actually something realistic. So that's another thing that I find in these movies, that there are so many elements that are not realistic. First of all, let's talk about the characters, right? We have white girl and white boy. And I'm not just going to criticize the girls here, because I think that by making the main guy, or making, I guess, casting a guy that usually is very fit, is white. Again, there are other movies that have more diversity in them, but usually this is how it goes. There is a guy that is always fit, of course, white. He seems like he's the perfect dude, you know. Outside, he's perfect. He has every part that matters, but then his inside is always just nice. Once you get to know him better, he just seems like the perfect candidate. For some particular reason, he's more academically achieved, I guess. He looks like a player, but then when you actually get to know him, he's caring. Like, that's the vibe I get from a lot of these main characters. Of course, there are the girls, blonde, white, skinny, with amazing fashion sense. Usually, a lot of times it seems like these women are always so accomplished. The only area that is missing from their lives is romance. I've seen multiple movies that weren't from Hallmark, because this is not like a Hallmark romantic genre dish. I've seen How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and I've seen The Ugly Truth. And usually, like, you can see that the main character is blonde, skinny, accomplished, but the only thing that's missing from her life is romance, which we're gonna get into the second unrealistic thing that I think happens into these movies. The lovers, or the soon-to-be lovers, always seem to just bump into each other thanks to destiny, I guess. Like, that doesn't really make any sense. They always fall in love for some particular reason. In real life, this usually doesn't happen that way. I do not see why a new, I guess, classmate or colleague that just play with me for a second here, okay? A new person that is coming into town or becoming your classmate or colleague, how the hell will you be sure that this is going to be the love of your life? But for some reason, these movies always seem to tell us that anytime somebody new comes into your life, that's gonna be it. It's gonna be Mr. Right. When maybe a new colleague can be a 75-year-old man or woman who wants nothing to do with you. And I feel like this has kind of translated into my life, because when I was a little girl, I used to always watch romantic comedies. And yes, whenever there's a new person, I find myself wondering whether there's a guy who I might fall in love with. Like, it feels like all of this is so unnecessary, because life is just not about love all the time. Love is something that should come as a result of a caring relationship. As these feelings are progressing, it's when it becomes a romantic relationship. I don't know if it makes sense, but I do feel like sometimes this romantic plot is just unnecessary, or just so pushed onto the main character. Now, again, this is a romantic movie, so love is kind of what we want. But maybe they don't need to do it with the main characters. Maybe thanks to the main character, others can fall in love by just talking to each other. I feel like that's a logical idea. I don't know. Back to the characters. I do think that they try to basically create these characters so that they're perfect for each other. Like, every time I've seen this movie, I've seen a movie like that, it seems like maybe at first they don't realize it, but soon, as they get to know each other more, they are perfect for each other. But when you see this, what kind of thought goes into your head? If I don't feel like a guy is perfect for me, he's not worth it. Or there must be something wrong with me, because I always have such incredibly crazy standards that this guy is just not good enough for me. we end up always chasing for, again, the Mr. Right. And these movies seem to agree with this idea. The guy that you are gonna meet out of the sudden is gonna be perfect for you. They're always perfect for each other, which again seems unrealistic. There's nothing wrong with coming up with characters who are just basically other halves of each other. I just think that because these are the only two people that we get to know, the only way we can think of this is that love's supposed to be like this, that love is about finding the perfect half, or that if you don't find someone who is outright perfect for you, then he's not good enough. Okay. There's always a best friend. And I've heard that there's a lot of problem with the best friend of the main character, who usually gets the only personality this best friend or best friends have is that they're there to help the main character or to cheer on the main character. They never actually get a story. We never actually get to know them. We just know that they're the best friend. They want to portray this idea that there's a main character and there's always a secondary character who never gets a happy ending. And I don't like that. I think that everyone in a movie at least should deserve more than just like 5-liners. Or if they do, they usually just end up with someone in the guy's friendship group. I watched this movie when in Rome, and the best friend, the only time she just does something, I guess, is when she steals the coins that are so important to this girl, because the only way she can get this curse off of her hands is if she gives these back. And they basically portray her in a negative light because she does something so obscure without thinking. She just outright steals them and says, "This is for your good." Like, what kind of friend does that? This is, again, so unrealistic.
Spell, and that'll get me out of this whole mess?
Yeah, it'll be all over. Isn't that great?
Yeah, it's great.
I knew you'd be relieved.
This is for your own good, boss. It's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta go. Good luck at the show tonight. I'll call you later.
Why would you do that? Why would you not think that, oh my gosh, this girl is in trouble, I can't just do that? They just needed her for a plot device, and it's just so sad. Like, why would you do that to her? She deserves more. And let's not even talk about, like, the black best friend. This is not my part to speak on this because I'm not black. But I do wanted to talk about this just briefly, because I think they usually put the black character in this, or an Asian character, or someone that is anything but white, to bring in more audience and to have some representation. But I think that instead of having a best friend as a different racial person, they should cast them as the main character. Now, I know that there are many counterexamples for this, but mostly, especially in the 2000s, the white girl was always a trope, as well as the black or Asian best friend. So that's all that I can say about the moral support best friend. After a while, I think these stories become predictable and not as enjoyable anymore. That's just my opinion. For example, the Hallmark movies, there's always the same plot, but again, repeating the same characters, making them look very similar. Like, I could tell 4 movies out of my head that I've watched recently, and they had the same characters in it. Like, it seemed like the same thing, but with just kind of different stories. Like, there is How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, The Ugly Truth, Legally Blonde. Now, that's a bit more different, but it has kind of the same ideas. When in Rome. These are just a few ones that I can list that have the same characters look so similar. There's nothing wrong with making your characters look similar, but after a while, it just becomes repetitive and not so enjoyable anymore. And again, predictable. Like, we all know that that once these people are introduced to us, they're gonna fall in love. And it's gonna be a conflict that's gonna break them apart, but then they're going to realize that love is much more powerful and that they're perfect for each other and their babies would look good. So they just get back together. Okay. Hi, this is Editing Me, so I quickly wanted to jump in and tell you some other things as well, because I feel like when I filmed this, I wrote like some points down, but as I was thinking about editing this video and just finding some posters and clips from the films, I just realized that I've missed some things. First of all, I've noticed that most of these romantic comedies have similar posters. Most of the time, we have the two main characters and the title, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I just feel like, again, this is why it becomes repetitive, because even the posters are repetitive. You feel like you are given the same thing over and over again. Now, I feel like this has been done in the 2000s. I do really feel like nowadays we get to have more inclusivity and diversity, which is great. And I just wanted to highlight this as well, because we have so many romantic comedies who just come up with different ideas. However, another trope that I realized happens in these movies a lot is the makeover time, I guess. You can see that so many times, and even this happens nowadays, like this girl just takes off her glasses or gets hair extensions or a new wardrobe and she's basically a whole other person. There's nothing wrong with the makeover. I love makeovers. I just feel like they're empowering. But just like anything else that is superficial, it's never empowering enough. After this, you as a person are not going to change that much. You might change for a short period of amount of time, but as you are getting used to it, used to your new look, nails, whatever, it's going to become ordinary and you're not gonna feel them empowered anymore. That's why self-care and self-love needs to happen before you actually do the superficial things, because they're never gonna feel like they're actually giving you something. That happened to me so many times and I just don't understand how they managed to do this in this movie. Every time they're promoting this idea that once you take off your glasses or once you color your hair, once you buy new clothes, you're just gonna change out of the sudden, every boy is gonna like you, that you're gonna have the promotion, whatever, that you're now a different person, I guess. Unfortunately, this does not happen in real life, and that's another thing that I find very disturbing, is that this is not a process that just happens from one day to another. In order to change how you actually are as a person, you do not need a superficial makeover. You need to heal from all of the past trauma that you've had, and you need to let it go and start fresh. But this takes time. It's not gonna happen from 1 second to another, or from one makeover to another. And I've done this so many times. This happened to me so many times. That's the thing that bothers me in these movies, is that they portray this inner change of a woman as something that should happen from superficial things. And it might be a promotion of this industry, of the cosmetical industry or fitness industry. I don't know. I think there are different ties that come into question when we talk about why they want to make women feel like they need a makeover in order to feel empowered or feel more like themselves. But I just find it so annoying, because it doesn't work like this in real life. Change comes from within. For example, in the movie Clueless, yeah, they're trying to transform this girl into someone she's not, because they think that if we can change her, she is gonna become more like us and attract more boys, become, this empowered woman. But she actually doesn't even change. She becomes worse morally. Or in The Ugly Truth, I talked about this a lot, but this guy gives her a makeover so she can attract this other guy. It feels like every single time these makeovers happen, they happen to a woman, done by a peer, and it never really seems like it's for the purpose to feel better. It's for the purpose of attracting someone else. Or
becoming someone you're not. Even in this movie 365 Days, which is a horrible movie, never watch it please, but if you watched it, you know what I'm talking about. There are several montages of this girl just getting makeovers. It just kind of shows the irony of makeovers, because after a time you're gonna get back to the same place where you were because you didn't change, you just act different because it's just a moment of enjoyment, it's just a spark of change. And then once there's something happens to you, because you didn't actually change, you just changed your look, you're outside, you feel the need of having another one of these makeovers because you just want to feel empowered again. But if you really think about it, you cannot do that. Or you can, but it's not gonna help you change. And the last thing that I forgot, I feel like, which kind of happens in some of these romantic comedies, is that mostly women play as a role of the fixer-upper. So she needs to appear, she becomes the reason why a guy changes. There's, again, nothing actually wrong about it, but if you think about it, it kind of gives out this message that you need to fix someone, you are the fixer, and the only way a relationship can work if you fix this guy because he is broken in some ways. So it kind of seems like you change the guy as the girl, I guess, and the guy gives you a makeover, which is kind of superficial. Yeah, again, it doesn't really resonate with me, or I don't really get it. You can see this happening. This happens in the 500 Days of Summer, the wedding planner, the proposal. It's always like they're fixing the guy.
So moving on, some parts of these movies I feel like don't even make sense, or they're just like crazy. Again, just as I told you before, the incident where she basically stole those coins in order to prevent her from not being happy. But I love these flight tropes where they seem to just catch a flight so easily, or just ask for a cab in seconds. Like, I don't think that's true. I know that they need to speed this up because the story has to go forward, but it just seems so weird. Instead of, you know, catching a cab or a flight, they could have done differently. Let's not even talk about tropes that all of these movies seem to feature. There's always the airport chasing when the main character is just so upset that it just wants to move to another city or go back home, I guess. Like, that usually happens in most of them. There's always, again, a chasing, and there's always the girl who gets. I've never seen a movie where a man gets hurt. Like, that's how offensive it is. And whenever they're together, it seems like they're just codependent. They're just, so can you just tell me how from two people who are independent, have amazing jobs, just like have built a career for themselves, a life for themselves, become so codependent on each other that they just lose their personality. Like, instead of becoming something amazing, they just like melt together, I guess. And everything that we've known about them at the start of the movie seems to just disappear. I'm not gonna, like, again, this has two sides of the story. It's nice, it makes sense in a way, but also it doesn't. Like, how can you give up so much that you just melt together with someone else? Like, you lose everything you had for this other person. I think in a way this is toxic. It's telling us that the only way we can achieve happiness, love, is if we give up all of the parts that makes us unique and just coexist with someone else to please their need, right? Like, doesn't it just feel so pushed and sad in a way? In some way, you need to make sacrifices. That's what happens, because now you're not just alone. You have someone else that you need to take care of in a way. But I don't think that giving up everything, jeopardizing your career and everything is a way you should go. And I don't like that. So here comes my last point, and then we can move on to the nice things, I guess. The reason why I actually wanted to make this video, because it popped into my head that these movies depict too good to be true love stories, which can create the wrong impression on younger folks like myself or anybody else. Now, of course, everybody is different, and sometimes maybe these love stories exist. I have no idea. But from the way I view things, I don't think these miraculous stories actually happen in real life. Again, it seems unrealistic, but also when younger children, especially girls, watch these movies, they're gonna feel like they want something similar. Even if these stories are catered for their enjoyment, we know that these are unrealistic because some way it's an escape from reality. But if this happened to be seen by younger people, they might feel like this is what love actually is. And there's nothing wrong with that. We should want an amazing love story, an amazing relationship with someone. But it might take more time, or it might not happen for the first time. And sometimes we want so much out of a relationship that we forget that maybe the person that we're with cannot give this to us. And sometimes we're pressuring our own ideals onto this person without even realizing. And that can create conflict. I've seen myself wishing for these kind of relationships and always thinking that whenever I enter a new environment, I'm gonna meet a new guy, or I'm just so excited that today might be the day when I meet him. But sometimes that's not true. I don't know. I might be completely wrong, but this is just the way I see it. And I invite you to accept my opinion. And if you disagree with me, tell me how you feel. Now, let's talk about everything that's good about these movies, because I do think that they're not that bad. And I'm, again, not hating on them as much. First of all, usually the humor is impeccable. I really like the fact that they try to make these movies funny and interesting. I think that the story itself is incredibly nice. The fact that it's unrealistic is something else. But if something like this would happen to me, I would love it. You know, it's just too enjoyable in a way. But it's very inviting and extremely romantic. They are definitely an escape from reality, which is nice, especially if you just want to watch something that invites you into a whole nother universe of romance. Sometimes it can make your day, make you feel more happier, and just give you a sense of relief. And sometimes I do also feel like it can be a way for you to believe a little bit more in love, even if the story itself might not ever happen to you. You might want to fall in love after you watch a movie like this. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna tell you right now that I like to talk shit about things, but it's only because I'm using my brain and I'm trying to see the other side of things. I'm kind of critical, but just like everything, this has two sides, the good or bad. They kind of coexist, and there's nothing wrong with some things being good and bad at the same time, as long as they don't give out a offensive or wrong message. I do feel like romantic comedies are just on the line, on the verge of becoming offensive sometimes, or straight out just horrible. But I feel like they are keeping it under control. Like the ones that I've seen. It seems like are keeping it under control. Now, again, I know that there are so many other romantic comedies that might be different from what I've told you now. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially because I've been talking about all of this. I just know that these are tropes that seem to exist. So, thank you so much for joining me into this exploration of romantic comedies, and I guess see you in my next one. Bye.